It's the Daily Dog.
Hey y'all, how you doing? Doug Helvering here, and it's another edition of the Daily Doug, an impromptu edition, if I might say so. I am over at the church where I work, and tonight I've been recording a couple of piano tracks, some improvisatory piano meditations that I've been talking about on this channel and putting out on my YouTube channel and with Aphoria Music. So just between takes, I just wanted to just turn the camera on and just talk a little bit because, you know, when I started this series, it was an attempt to just do something positive with my time. And, some people have watched, and I'm very thankful, and so this is my way to communicate and connect with my community and with my friends and extended network and just with the broader internet community. But really, this is my way of just doing some talk therapy and just marking the historical record for my own sake. Because, I recognized earlier this year that these are truly unprecedented times. And there's no telling what's going to happen. And I think it's important for us to document on an individual basis as much as we can what's going on a daily basis and what we think about it, so that the knowledge of what's going on can be disseminated to other people, or at least we can mark the tape and say, on this day, this is what I was thinking, and this is what I was up against, and this is what I'm afraid is going to happen. And today is one of those days. I guess I'm calling this episode How to Deal with Despair, because that's the only word I have for it. Just utter despair, y'all. It's been a rough few days. It's been a rough few weeks. It's been a rough several months, as we all know. The United States passed more than 200,000 people dead in 6 months from a pandemic that, seems largely avoidable. In terms of the economic and the physical health toll, the health crisis toll on this country seems largely avoidable. I know this virus is slippery and it's insidious and it's airborne, but still, if we were a community as a nation that were in this together and we all equally thought about our own health and about the health of the people that we come in contact with, we could have mitigated this on a much broader and better scale. But out of our abject stupidity as a collective society, we are, number one, again, only in bad things. In this instance, the number of people that have perished. We've got like 2 9/11s every like 10 days for the last, steady for the last, several weeks. I've been talking a lot about meditations on this series because I felt like for the first time in my life, I need it. I need it. With all of the shit that's going on. So a little bit about me. You guys know that I'm a musician and I'm a teacher. And I'm with my teacher friends and professors and colleagues and students. And on one hand, I wish that I was in the classroom right now. I desperately miss it. But on the other hand, I am really kind of relieved that I don't have that added stress of figuring out how to teach during this pandemic, this unmitigated disaster. One of the things that I've had to mourn this year is the final, in my mind, the final demise of our beloved Westminster Choir College. Westminster Choir College is the only school of its kind in the world. It is a college dedicated to the vocal and choral art. It's 100 years old. The Westminster Choir is celebrating this year its 100th anniversary by not having a season because of the pandemic. I attended Westminster for my master's degree from 2000 to 2002. I was in the middle of my master's degree program when 9/11 happened. And our community was buoying during that time. And I've grown to just love choral music and the choral art and what happens when people sing together. The power and the energy and the changing of lives and the betterment of everybody who's involved. When people breathe together and they make beautiful sounds together. And using language in that musical art, delivering meaning, delivering intention and social commentary. It's an art that I love. And I came back to teach at Westminster in 2009 as an adjunct and loved every minute of it. Loved my students and just loved being a part of that community. And in 2015, the Board of Trustees at Rider University, which is the parent university of Westminster Choir College, from a merger that happened back in the early 1990s. Their long-term and supportive university president retired, and the trustees decided that they wanted to bring in a president that was going to bust up the union because they didn't like their teachers, and that was going to try to bust up Westminster Choir College so that they could move it off of our historic campus in Princeton, New Jersey, and make us into just the Rider School of Music on their podunk little campus in Lawrenceville, New Jersey, and then sell our historic landmark campus. And it's fucking illegal, and they know it, but somehow our legal system has nothing to do with justice. So even with the greatest opposition that we could muster, they've still been able to uproot us from our ancestral home and decimate our school. Our enrollment is down 70-80% from where it was 5 years ago. And as a result, I no longer have a job in higher education. There's not enough students left to even have extra people teaching basic musicianship at this school. And 2 years ago, I transitioned from the classroom to being on staff, leading the sacred music department as coordinator, sacred music and conducting department as coordinator. And that position was eliminated back in June. Half because of the pandemic and half because they've decimated the sacred music department to the point that there's nobody left. Just nobody left. There was nothing for me to do anymore. So I'm grieving. I'm still grieving that. It's like I don't know what I'm called to do anymore, besides just continue to try to make music. So with that, and from a career standpoint, and from just a love of my school standpoint, and then the whole pandemic being botched, and or the response to the pandemic being botched, and choirs not being able to meet and sing because we're super spreaders, because we use our breath and we expel aerosols when we make music, and that is inherently dangerous in a pandemic with a virus that is spread by aerosols that linger in the air. To this day, just the past few months, it's difficult for me to listen to choral music because it reminds me of how much I miss it, and it makes me sad rather than buoy me, which is why I've turned to piano meditations, because that seems to be the only thing that tends to help. You know, and it's one thing after another with this president who is hell-bent on deconstructing America as we have come to know it. And it's just fucking despair. And it's difficult. Some days are better than others, but today was a really down day because just tonight, I mean, every day it's messed up. But just tonight, the president, from the White House briefing room, basically argued for the obliteration of the democratic process itself. He said he was not going to commit to a peaceful transition of power if he were to lose the election, and said that we should get rid of ballots so that there could be a continuation of his presidency. And the people that fall in line with the GOP don't even blink. These people don't understand what it means to be Americans. They've been, I don't know, from my perspective, they've been taught over an entire generation that the Democrats are their enemies, and anything that they can do to keep Democrats from being in power is justified. And that's fucking dangerous, because what ends up happening is that the most evil and corrupt among them will use that as a way to uplift themselves and give themselves power, and knowing that there will be absolutely no consequences for their actions. Ruth Bader Ginsburg lied in state today at the Supreme Court, and we're still reeling from the aftermath of her death, and it's just fucking scary, because the Republicans are hell-bent on replacing her with as radical a person as they can, as quickly as they can, because they know that they're going to need an extra voice on the court so that they can challenge the election results. And I can guarantee you, y'all, I mean, I did a video a couple days ago about the fallout from RBG's death, which was largely a stream of conscious video, much like this one is. And towards the end of it, I said, we need to make this a landslide election. Well, it's just like a day or two later, and that's becoming more and more real and palpable, that we have to make this a landslide, because I can guarantee you, if it's within like 3 to 4 to 5 percentage points, there is no way that that Donald Trump is going to yield to Joe Biden, and it will be armed insurrection. And just for the historical record, the Republican Party has ruled as a drastic minority for decades, and they've become more and more and more radical with each passing year. I mean, every year we think it can't get worse. First it was gaslighting us into thinking that Iraq was the people that attacked us on 9/11 when Iraq had nothing to do with it. So they lied us into that war, and George W. Bush is a war criminal. And because we're good people, and we wanted to try to heal the nation, when President Obama was elected, we didn't do anything to punish George W. Bush or any of those people in his administration that had lied us into a war and screwed up FEMA and botched the Hurricane Katrina aftermath, and then got us into a huge recession, basically with housing markets in 2008. I got my doctorate in 2008, right as the economy was tanking, and it was the Republicans' fault because of their just dismantling of regulations. You take a playing field, right? People think regulations are onerous or government should stay out of things. No. This is a playing field. Our economy is a playing field, and we need to draw the boundaries around which or within which the game can be played. And then there needs to be referees that call fouls, that throw flags when people break the rules. And they need to go into a penalty box. It's basic gameplay theory, y'all. And they just removed the referees. And they removed the sidelines and say, do whatever the fuck you want. Because the people that have more money and more power are going to be just fine. And the poor people be damned. And then there was the backlash to President Obama's election in 2008 with the whole rise of the Tea Party in 2010, where like all of the racists finally came out of the shadows. And it's been nonstop since then, to the point now where this is a party that is wholly reminiscent of the Nazi Party in the late 1930s. They think the world is stacked against them. They think it's the Democrats' fault, and they're racist, and they're nationalistic, and they're militant in their stance. And trust me, no amount of rationality is going to convince these people. In an earlier video in this series, I was talking about how the revelations from the Bob Woodward book about how Trump really did know about the severity of the coronavirus and knew there was going to be a pandemic that was going to be just detrimental, and he was instead of warning the American people and getting us all on board and getting us ready to combat it, he was afraid for his own reelection. He was thinking of himself and not the American people, and botched it. So like the whole idea that Trump knew about it and lied to the American people, I did a video on that. And towards the end, I was saying, the people that still support him, we need to have empathy and that we need to talk to these people. Well, I took my own advice. I'm not going to name names, but I reached out to a longtime friend of mine who is on the other side politically. And I basically said, in this election, I've respected your opinion in election cycles past, but in this election, it's different, and we need your vote, and here's why. And this person basically came back at me and said, the Democrats are distrustworthy, Joe Biden is a bad person, and all lives matter, and I'm a racist, and I'm a nationalist, and I'm not going to vote for Joe Biden because I don't like cancel culture. Well, you know what? Cancel culture, the people that whine about cancel culture, that's the language of the oppressor, not the oppressed. Right? The oppressed, what are we to do? We're fucking traumatized by the hellscape that has been created by right-wing economics for 2 generations. We can't afford to go to the doctor. We are now scared to go to the doctor because of what they've created in this country. People are scared to go to college because it will ruin them economically. There is no way out unless you have mass amounts of inheritance coming your way. And we're traumatized. And the only way that we can start to think of anything we can do on the individual level is to start trying to distance ourselves as much as we can from doing business, actively doing business with people that we know whose politics are actively trying to subvert our own freedom and our own opportunity of the pursuit of happiness in this country. So when people whine about cancel culture, no, that's gaslighting. And it's horseshit. I tried with my friend. I really did. And this person, I said, respond with love. I know you to be a loving and good person. I know you to be a loving and good person who cares about people. Why are you voting like this? And sadly, it's that irrationality. It's the reason why I keep coming back to the whole abortion issue. It's that irrationality. Once that takes hold in these poor people's noggins, then they get conditioned to think that they have to vote a certain way. And over the course of a generation, 20, 30 years, their brains are just like scrambled eggs. And God, it's sad. You cannot have a rational argument with people who are inherently irrational. And I tried, but in very few circumstances will it work. The only way I think that it'll work is if people get to the point where they literally have a crisis of their own faith or their own identity, and they start to reconstruct themselves. And in that vulnerability, that's when we can try to help them see reason. I work for a church that's in the ELCA, the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America. And I know evangelical is in the name, and if you're not familiar with that, you might think, wow, that's a crazy right-wing name or word. In this instance, the ELCA is largely a progressive church in America. The congregation where I serve has a really great and supportive community, and I love our people. But the national ELCA is running into this just tonight on their social media. Another thing that happened today was poor Breonna Taylor. The investigation into her murder concluded, and the grand jury decided that only one of the 3 police officers involved in that shooting was going to be charged, and he wasn't even going to be charged for shooting at or into Breonna Taylor. He was charged with, I don't even remember the term for it, but endangering the lives of the people in the neighboring apartment. Breonna Taylor's neighbors who are still alive are going to get justice before Breonna Taylor does. And it's just traumatic. Injustice. The whole system is broken. The entire system is just completely fucked. And it's sad, and it's despair inflicting. So I will hand it to the people at the ELCA, the National Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, on their Facebook page tonight. Put a post up that says something about like when one person is the recipient of injustice, we all are the recipient of injustice, and that we need to pull together and work together to reform the system, and that Breonna didn't deserve this. And it was a very loving and supportive post for them to publish. And it was brave of them to publish in such a public facing forum. And to the, most people that responded to, I happened to see the post, and most people that responded to it were very supportive of it and sad about the aftermath of what's going on. But you get these people that are completely upset with the ELCA because they see them supporting social justice, and they go absolutely berserk. There's people on there, well, what about the 300,000 kids that have been murdered by leftist politicians? I'm like, you people are out of your fucking mind. And what do we do? So to bring it full circle, how do we deal with this daily despair? How do we deal with it? The only thing that my wife and I have been able to figure out is that we just keep talking to each other about it. It's okay to be vulnerable, it's okay to cry, and it's okay to be angry as fuck. Because that means we're still human, and it means that we still see this. And it means that we're still trying to connect to reality. But I mean, you can't turn on the news and watch the news because it just makes your blood boil. All day. Which is why these meditations have been so helpful for me. I'm going to calm down from this and try to play a meditation. I don't know how successful I'm going to be. Just for the historical record, I fear, today is September 23rd, 2020. I fear that it's going to get even worse, much worse, before the election is concluded on November 3rd. And what happens after that is anybody's ballgame. And we don't have the resources to stock up. We're just trying to take it a day at a time, and the anxiety is killing us. And the despair is palpable. So, if you guys are feeling it too, we're with you. I just wanted to put a name to it and talk about it. Sometimes you need an outlet to just let off a little steam. So, we'll keep doing the best we can, and we'll keep trying as hard as we can, and being as loving as we can. But we are called to fight for what is right in the face of injustice. And that's what we're going to do. If there's anything that's happened since Ruth Bader Ginsburg died, is that she has become our patronus, our calling card, our beacon for courage. And we're not going to let these people that want to turn America into their fascist utopia be successful. We're just not. Not without a fight. So, that's it for tonight. Thanks for listening, and we'll see what happens along the way, and we'll keep fighting, and we'll keep praying, and we'll keep trying and trying and trying, and try not to lose heart. So until next time and the next update, thanks for watching, thanks for listening. Be kind to each other, be supportive of each other, reach out to your teachers. Reach out to everybody you can. Make sure that they know that you love them and that you're thinking about them and that they have support and that they're not in it alone. We're all in it. We're all in it. Thanks again, guys. We'll see you next time. This has been today's Daily Doug.